just going to start this one off laughing. Welcome to the Standing Waters Podcast by New Way Restoration and Cleaning. I'm Bill Sherman, your host, and we're here together with Chip again. Chip, we do this all the time.
We do.
Chip and I do this all the time. We're kind of getting used to it. But as you can see, we have been instructed today. We don't actually do this on our own.
No.
No, we have like our house mom that keeps us in line and makes us figure we don't do anything we're not supposed to be doing. And behind the camera is Carrie. Carrie just yelled at us and told us that we need to stop clicking the pen and banging the pen and moving our chairs. So we're going to do our best to keep our pen right there, our paper here, and our hands right here.
And my chair not moving.
Yeah. I mean, this might be the staunchiest podcast we ever done, and we're just going to blame it on Carrie. But
do we have to raise our hand to get a drink?
Yes.
Well, let's jump right into it, Chip. Funny we're going to talk about this today. We're going to talk about servant management. I don't feel like Carrie has cultivated our environment well enough. I feel like she is a traditional manager and is telling us what to do. Put your hands on the table. Put your pen down.
Oh, but she's got a 2x4 back here getting ready to slap us. I'll do anything she says.
I'll do anything. So, could you ask her real quick? How do we raise our hand to get a drink? I mean, that leads us right into traditional management, right? Traditional management is do what I told you to do because I told you to do it. That's how we all grew up. That's how we all grew up, right? Right? We grew up to, I tell everybody that I'm just bred to work. I wasn't really bred to work, right? It's not really in my parents' genes, but it's a characteristic that I was taught young teenage years in construction, that you just showed up to work. That's what you did. We go to work.
Yes.
Rain, snow, sleet, hurt, teenage years of hungover. It didn't matter, right? You just went to work, right? And that's the traditional management is, go pick up that piece of paper because I told you, right? We're finding a shift. Sorry. God, this is going to be hard, Gary. It's going to be hard. You're such a hardcore manager.
In case nobody saw that, I just raised my eyebrows. And he was like,
this is going to be so hard.
Just relax. You're fine.
Yeah, she's starting to come around. Do you want to read this? Yeah, maybe you should read this before we get started, Gary. This is so hard to do.
Actually, do we have any paper towels? I'm getting sweaty.
Yeah, my hands are getting sweaty and everything. But anyway, so, we're talking about servant management. The traditional way of do it because I told you to, it's still alive and well in today's world. It's alive and well in our town. I'd like to think that's more alive than anything else, right? It's do because I told you to, and that's the way it's going to work. We here at New Way Restoration don't manage that way.
No.
We don't manage that way.
It's very different management what I was used to, so yes.
We sit down and we change the way that we interview people and we do new hires. And part of that is this servant management. And, when they get to me, they get to me in the third step, the conversation I'm having with them is that this is going to be a very, very different place for you to work. Yes. It might be irritating to you because you're not used to it. It's going to take time to get used to it, right? We're very easy to get along with, and we manage differently. Mm-hmm. Right? So, Chip, when we started, you said, "Hey, I've already read this. I know this. Do you know about Robert Greenleaf? Tell me about Robert Greenleaf."
I don't know much about him. Like I said, I was going last night looking at all this whenever you sent me up. What do you want to talk about? Mm-hmm. So I started going through, and this is just a couple of the things that I was, and his name came up. And he's the father of the servant leadership. A lot of people go off of whatever he goes by, and he's wrote books and everything else to guide us and everyone else through all of this.
I did a little bit of research on him. Nowhere did I see that he was like a philosopher, or he was an inventor, or he was a discoverer, or any of that stuff. I just see, all I just keep seeing is that sentence right there. It says Robert K. Greenleaf is widely regarded as the father of servant leadership. A philosophy he introduced in 1970. That's all I keep seeing, right? He had an idea. His idea was that if you treat your employees well, you will get more out of them.
Yes.
Right? I'm just going to read this, Chip, and then we'll continue out. So I'm going to read this. We just said Robert K. Greenleaf is widely regarded as the father of servant leadership, a philosophy he introduced in 1970. Greenleaf believed that true leadership emerges from a deep desire to serve first rather than lead. His work has had a profound and lasting impact on leadership studies, encouraging a shift towards values-driven leadership. His ideas remain influential in management, education, and community development, promoting the belief that leadership should uplift and empower others. Chip, I have told you numerous times. I've told all the managers here numerous times. Carrie can attest. She's over there napping. Can you hear? Can you hear? I've told them all. I said, if you want to sit in my chair, if you want to be general manager, tell me.
Mm-hmm.
I will teach you to do it, and I will move out of my chair when the day is ready. I will go do something else. Right? My philosophy is not that I'm not going to hire the person that replaces me. Absolutely, I want to hire the person that replaces me. Because it makes the company much better. Right? It really reduces problems. So when we're looking at this stuff, all right, we'll cheat too, and I'll tell you that we just went through. We've been doing this. Let me back up for a second. We've been doing this since the day that I started. Right? We've been managing this way, for 4.5 years now. But we just put the managers through servant management, servant leadership training. And so a lot of this stuff we're going to talk about today is not going to be shocking. Maybe shocking to the rest of the world, but not to us, right? Because this is the way we do it. And including that training, everybody come out of the training going, what did I learn? Because you're already doing it, right? It just helps to hear it out of somebody else's mouth besides Bill.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like a refresher course.
Yeah. It's very, very different. What are some of the... There's probably 15 core principles, but give me like 4 of them or something.
Listening?
Yeah.
Listening is a huge one to me.
Yeah. It really goes against that philosophy of do it because I told you to.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's a chance that there's a better way. Right? If we're talking about moving this piece of paper from here to there, and I think that we should just go this way, there's a chance that you know a better way.
Right.
Or a way that we're not going to run into an obstacle of the drink water ring in the center that we're not going to, right? There's a chance.
Right.
Listening is very, very important. Listening to your employees. They do it every day. They're doing what you're asking them to do every day. So when you tell them to do it, I want it done this way, there's a chance we're wrong.
Sure. And if you're not out there doing it with them,
right,
then, it's a good idea. I mean, I ask all of mine so far of, if you see a better way, let me know. I'm not always right.
You better put that pen down.
Sorry. And I'm not always right. But yeah, it's that, because if you have to go by, you do what I tell you to do, you're not going to keep not going to keep anybody interested in what you're doing. So
right,
the more input you have from your employees, I feel is a wonderful thing.
It also helps with efficiency, right? So if you don't tell them that I have to move the pen out of the way to move the paper, and I just tell them to move the paper, they get to an obstacle and stop.
Right.
that is extremely frustrating to traditional managers, probably servant management managers also. But but if you're teaching them how to overcome those obstacles, then it reduces those obstacles, it increases efficiency, and it'll probably lower the manager's heart rate
by a lot.
By a lot, right?
Yeah. And another one is like prioritizing stuff, the growth and everything else for the team.
It's probably one of the hardest things to change in a manager is getting them to understand that the focus is not actually on the task that we're doing, like moving the pen. It's actually on developing the employee so that they move the pen the best way, right? Prioritizing the employee is a much harder thing to do than prioritizing that. Because a lot of times you're focused on, I have to get that pen moved today. Right? As managers, we're constantly putting out fires. And that's what those are. No, they didn't move the pen yesterday, so I got to move the pen today. If you focus on the development of the employee, they will move the pen without that. And they're all different. So you've got to look at different prioritizations.
And that's where it comes back to the listening part, because everybody is different and everybody handles things differently. Like I do stuff different than you, and I sit back and look and say, why in the heck did Bill do it that way? And same way with the employees. I look back and I'm like, why did they do it that way? It's because they were taught that way. We were all taught different.
Right.
I mean, so if we can find that happy medium where everybody's the same and get them on the same board, and the classes we sat through that you talked about, even though I was in management for quite a long time, I still found some very good out of that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think of that.
You can look, but when we go through this class, right? When we sit through this class, I remember sitting there thinking about managers I've had before.
I'm allowed to drink.
Sure, I'm in charge, Jim.
Gotcha, we're good.
Sir, I can fill your cup back up.
No, I'm good.
Whatever. I look back at other managers that I had in the past, and really what it makes you say is, man, what a jerk. I'm a conglomerate of all the managers I've ever had. Good, bad, terrible, soft, whatever. I've taken the good and the bad from all of those managers, gotten rid of the bad and said I'm never going to act that way. And all the good, I've said I'm going to act that way. I liked it when they did that in this situation to me, right? So I think that's helpful when you listen. Listening in turns around to this collaborative effort in making decisions and accomplishing the goal.
Sure.
So if you include them, if I open ears and I listen, right? I listen, and here in operations, you do this all the time. How, guys, how are we going to get this out of here?
Right. And they got some good ideas that I wouldn't have thought of. So,
they're the ones that do it every day.
Right.
Why aren't we listening to them?
Yeah. And if you make it part of it, it makes them feel more special, more important, and they're going to do you a better job.
Right.
So what do you know about fostering?
So I think I do it to you guys all the time. We just did it last week at the managers, our Thursday manager meeting. We just did it last week. Fostering the collaborative, inclusive work environment. When we make decisions around here, for the most part, I know where the decision needs to be made. But I'm always trying to teach, always teaching, and it's at different levels, right? So last week we were talking about, how we were going to promote somebody, and everybody had different views. But what happened was after a half an hour conversation, we worked out all of the views and figured it out. Right. So it creates that inclusive work environment that everybody's involved, that you're able to work through it. Once you work through that half an hour of working through that, will stay with you forever.
Sure.
You all learned. Carrie even learned something. Carrie was the one that won that one, right? I think I gave her credit. Like, Carrie figured it out faster than everybody else. Right? But, we got to put those people in, including, I you got to put people in those environments to allow them to thrive. They don't learn anything if I tell you to move the red cup.
Exactly.
If I don't tell you why to move the red cup, you don't learn anything.
Yeah.
Or how to move the red cup. I just tell you to move it, and you knock it off the table, and now I'm like, what did you do? Well, you didn't tell me how to move the red cup. You didn't teach me.
Right. It's funny because sitting through that class or the management meeting a little ways through it, and I'm sitting there and it just slapped me upside the face, and I'm like, oh my God, Bill's doing a teaching moment. I got it. I know exactly what it is. And, it's like the time we were sitting at our back cave, getting away from everybody, and you didn't scold me, but over a decision that I made, but you pointed it out, and I picked it up in our conversation, and it'll stick with me forever because I know some people wouldn't handle it that way. They would be like,
Right.
fist pounding, you got to do this, finger pointing, and you did it very politely. So
because you don't want that.
no.
What you take out of that conversation is Bill was being a dick.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what you would take out of that conversation. At the end of it, you'd be like, well, I just got to go tell him to do this because Bill was just being mean.
Right.
No, right? So it's all about approach. It's about approach and tone, and that means it leads to here, leading by example. Humility, empathy, and self-awareness. Hard 3 words. Hard 3 words for people.
Yes.
Right? To get a virtual hug around humility, empathy, and self-awareness, hard for people, right? You have to be able to be embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to learn from your mistakes. You got to be able to put yourself in those people's shoes, right? I've always said, I want you to make a decision, and if you're wrong, we'll talk about it.
Yeah,
but I need you to stand up, stick your chest out, and make a decision.
Right.
Right?
Otherwise, you're not going to learn.
Right? You're not going to learn. You're going to make the decision based off the best information that you have at the time. If I change something in your decision, it's probably because I've been through a scenario in the past that I want to not run into that obstacle this time. Right? A lot of times it's just a tweak. It's a tweak in the word, a tweak in the vocabulary, just a slight tweak in how. Right? So humility, empathy, and self-awareness are probably the hardest things for traditional managers to change upon. Sure. Because a lot of times it's, why do I care how they feel? I told them to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll sit on your couch and you'll say, "Who let that guy say that to me?" Right? No. Right. You changed your approach, life would have been a little different. Right?
And that leads into our big thing of work hard and be nice.
Yeah, so there's a I giggle every time I talk about it, but there's a canvas picture downstairs in the training room that gets seen every single morning at 7 a.m. It gets seen by every employee that walks through there every single day, every time, right? I bought it at one of those discount box stores because I was walking down the aisle and I was like, oh my, look at that. It says work hard and be nice. That really does just sum up servant leadership.
Sure does.
Servant management, and servant customer service. We preach it every day.
Yes.
And we're going to grow our company. We're going to grow it exponentially. You know how we're going to do it? Work hard and be nice.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we're going to do. We're going to treat each other with respect. We're going to work as hard as we can. We're going to take care of our customers the best that we possibly can. And if that's going the extra mile, we're going the extra mile.
Right.
I will pay you every minute to go the extra mile.
Yeah.
Right?
And if you do just the 4 core principles that you just spoke about, the benefits of that is going to be beneficial, not only to us, but to the company and to our customers.
So there's some challenges, right? There's challenges on the employee side. There's some negative aspects to the management side. Most of them come from the change in the mindset. of do it because I told you to, or I did it because you told me to developing and allowing your employees to make decisions. Right? There's risks in this. It can be very stressful for the manager in the beginning because they release control and allow the employee to do what they think they should do.
Right.
Sometimes it gets done wrong. The task of moving the pen gets spun by accident. They had no intention of it, but they didn't know. Right. So there's some transitional period, and however long that period is, it's all up to the manager. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It can be years. It can be a month. It can be a couple days. It can be a couple months. Right. It all comes down to them. The big, I think, I think the biggest, hardest thing to do is changing mindset. They call it changing culture. You deal with so many people with different personalities and culturally driven things that they do. It's so hard to get 26 people to go in one direction.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. I remember laying in bed thinking, this is not going to work. This isn't going to work. I might as well just give up. I remember, I remember going, this is really causing me problems, right? But, but that little voice in the back of my head said, hold the course.
Right.
Stay.
Look where you are now.
Stay, right? Now we're hiring people with this mentality, leading by example, humility, empathy, self-awareness, right? We're hiring people that listen, that are prioritizing their coworkers before they're prioritizing the task at hand. Right? That leads directly to safety. Directly to safety. How many times do I stand up in front of you and go, safety, I need to teach it to you. But it's you guys that are going to cut your finger. You're not going to cut my finger.
Right, exactly.
Right? It's paying attention, right? It goes right to them to pay attention to their employee, to their coworker, and say, hey, move the hand out of the way so you don't cut it.
Mm-hmm.
Or cut away from it. Right? It's fostering an environment. So now, we're hiring people with these qualities. I'm gonna flip the page here because I put a note on here, and I think it's very important. Servant leadership is not for everybody. It's not. It takes a drastic change in your mindset to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
You could go through employees. You could go through managers that are not willing to see the vision and move. So it's not for everybody. It's very hard to develop those empathy and active listening skills. If you run into managers that don't have empathy, caring for somebody else, it's hard.
It's very hard. Yeah.
Right? It's hard because they're not going to do it. Everybody else is changing, and that person looks like a dick.
Mm-hmm.
Stop. Everybody else is looking around and go, will you just stop acting that way? It's hard. Like I said, it is not for everybody. Yeah. Right?
And I've told all of them so far, is like, if you got a problem, you need to talk, come sit with me. I'll listen. My ears are always open. I'll try and help you out any way I can, because sometimes life's hard. And you don't want everybody to feel that way. And sometimes when they come to work, they just need a little extra pat on the back to get them through the day.
Right. So, the question it gets brought up, I don't have a lot of people asking me about this, to be honest, because, again, we are very different than everybody. Mm-hmm. But the question is asked, well, what does leading by humility, empathy, and self-awareness mean? What are you telling me? What do you want me to do? In the beginning, I told you, to get 26 people to go in the same direction, they all are different. They've all come from different paths. They've all come down different paths in life, and they've all had different experiences. Your experiences are what develop you today to create the culture that you have inside of you.
Right.
You know, they call it the nature of nurture, right? It's nurturing. It's your experiences that occurred to you. You know, to get them to move is hard. How do you get them to move? Through these three. Okay, well, what does these three mean? These three means whatever they have going on in their life, whatever they need to have fixed to get them to move forward and to progress through development in life, we should try our best as managers to identify them and help them.
I agree. Yeah.
Right? I jumped out of the truck this morning and put gas in my truck. 8:05 this morning. As soon as I hopped out, there's two employees standing there like, "Hey, Bill, I need to pick your brain. I'd like to buy a new car." Okay. But I don't know where to start. Okay. So we had a 15-minute conversation in the parking lot about you need to figure out what your current car is worth and how much that you owe and what the difference is, the difference you have to put on top of the new loan, and we need to find a vehicle that meets your needs, because what meets your needs with your number of kids and my kids are different, right? So we got talking through that. We've had employees that needed to learn how to balance their checkbook.
Mm-hmm.
I ran into one who believed that he could never get a checking account because somebody told him at some point that you had to have a great credit score to have a checking account.
Oh my gosh.
The boss, we're going across the street. You're going to have a checking account in about 9 minutes. Come on. Yeah. Right? I tell this one all the time. I first started here, and I asked an employee if he was in the 401k program. He looked me dead in the eye and says, "No, I'm not giving my money back to the company." Carrie, can you hear Carrie? Right?
It's because they don't know.
It's because they don't know. Right? It's because they don't know. Sometimes I feel like we stand in front of the employees downstairs in these training meetings every day, and we talk about things that are going on, and they just kind of stare through you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All I'm trying to do is help. But I have to understand that helping takes time.
Yes.
They have to buy in. Or they have to get to a life scenario where they need help.
Yeah. So after the morning meetings, I always ask them, "Hey, anybody have any questions? Anybody need anything? Can I help you with anything?" And they just all look at me like...
They never, yeah.
But I'm waiting for one day for them to open up and say,
They will.
"Can you help me do this, or help me with this?" It's not only work aspect.
Mm-hmm.
It's outside of life also. I'm always here to help.
Just here to help. I had a roommate one time tell me that, he asked me, of course it's a statement, but he's like, "German, have you ever done anything right the first time?" I don't think I have. I don't think I have, but, I know a little about a lot because I've been through bad scenarios. I've learned from them. I've corrected the scenarios, and I can carry that information on to the future and say, I'm not going to do this again.
Right.
And I think that's helpful.
I'll come to you.
Yeah.
I admit it. I don't know everything, and I'll sit down and I'll pick your ear and your brain and everything else, and by the end of it, I'll come up with something that I can stick with for a long time. So
I do the same thing. I have people that I rely on.
Yeah.
Right? I have people I rely on. I didn't know much about ownership contracts, and when I got here a couple of years ago, and then we turned around and we bought Dewey Carpet Cleaning, and I was getting into an ownership world and the contract world I didn't know. So I called a friend who I believe is significantly smarter than me, and he lives in Dallas, Texas. And we talked on the phone. So I'm going to email you something. I need you to read it and tell me if I'm looking at this right and if I'm missing something. Right. Because I need help. I don't know how to do something. Mm-hmm. I have those people. I remember calling an old friend that's a manager and saying, "How do you do this?" He's like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I got 15 teenage employees. Oh my! I'm not gonna be able to survive this. I mean, it's like herding 15 cats. that are hungry and they're all over the place.
Right.
And yeah, I'm like, oh. And he just kind of giggled and laughed and he goes, he says, I met you when you were a teenager.
I know what
He
you
says,
was like.
do you? Yeah, that's what he said. He says, don't you remember how you used to act when you were a teenager? Oh yeah. Because don't you remember the nicknames that I gave you when you were a teenager?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He says, well, that's what they're doing. You have to manage accordingly.
Yeah.
And if that means literally standing next to them to make sure that they're doing what you, then you're going to have to do that until they do it on their own. Oh. Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, you can go down this lane also of, we got a couple employees working here and they're great at what they do, but they don't want to mess up.
Mm-hmm.
So I told them in their reviews, we do monthly reviews, and I told them, I was like, look, team lead, step aside. Let the guy who's been cutting your boards for you and all this and do everything, let him take that chance, and then he's like, I don't want to do it. I'm afraid of screwing something up. Just like you said earlier, you're not going to learn if you don't screw up.
You got to screw it up.
So, and I come to you over the one aspect of it because they lay carpet for us. And I'm like, I really like for him to start laying carpet. And he's like, let him do it. And I'm like, man, we're in these homes, and you're like, I don't care. I could buy a piece of carpet cheap and replace it. Let him try. So I've been trying to do that. And then he comes to me the same thing I come to you about. He was like, we're working in these $1 million homes. I don't want to screw something up. And I'm like, look, you're not going to learn if you don't screw up.
Right? And
So
that
lay
goes
the
back
carpet.
goes back to Chip as the manager, right? Goes back to us as management to say we have to foster the environment to allow them to mess up.
Yep.
I don't want you to set the house on fire. In fact, I'll stop you before you do that.
Right.
But you got to mess up to learn.
Yeah. But I was in the same situation. I was scared because, oh
Yeah.
my God, what's Bill going to say whenever he screws this up? We got to order, new piece of carpet or more
Yeah, we're
flooring
buying a new
or
piece of
something
carpet.
or whatever. But then I come to you with it and you're like, let him do it. We'll buy it. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm good with it.
He's only going to make that mistake once.
Right.
If he makes it twice, then we're going to laugh. Right? But we're going to embrace him while we're giggling about it and be like, you did it twice?
Right.
Right? You have to give them the opportunity to fail.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same as kids. As much as that we want our children to not make mistakes, we in the back of the head know that they have to make mistakes on their own. What we're trying to do as parents is allow them to, or not allow them to make the big ugly mistakes.
Exactly.
Right? We want to teach them to make the little mistakes on their own so they learn from them, which would foster the environment so they don't make the big one. Right? What concerns us in our heart is when there's a potential for a big one. Right? Teenage driving.
I'm getting into that now.
Teenage driving, stuff, stuff like that. We think that we've taught them enough, but we know darn well we haven't taught them enough how to turn left in a 6-lane intersection.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right?
I haven't went to the interstate yet. So.
Follow me? Right? So when I look at the carpet scenario, I go, it's just carpet.
Right.
It's just carpet. But we have to, we as managers have to foster the environment. Right? Chip, I think that's a great segue into the future. But what does the future of servant management look like? Tell me about Gen Z employees. Let's just start there. Both feet, Chip.
I don't want both feet in on this. And so we just sat through this with Eric Sprague whenever he was in with us.
Yeah.
Had a big round robin table.
What a hard question, right?
It is.
Although we practice servant management as a modern way of management as opposed to traditional, right? We still have traditional in the back of our head.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And the future, having Gen Z employees in the workforce, throws off traditional management.
That throws me off.
I mean, just chucks it out the window. Smashes it in the parking lot, right? The way that we used to manage does not work. Why?
I have no idea.
Isn't it cool?
Right? It's mind blowing. Honestly,
The addition of Gen Z employees could cripple a company. It'll take maybe whatever. It could take a decade for it to cripple it. It's a slow process, but if you as a manager are not able to change with the times, and you hit that roadblock, you have a problem. You have a problem.
Like me with your computer.
Yeah, kind of. We got friends to help, right?
Yes.
We got friends to help. Gen Z employees are very different than anything else that's ever been, introduced to us in the workforce. They don't think the traditional way. They don't act the traditional way. Their values are different. But at no point has anybody ever said that Gen Z employees are bad. Right? It's just a different mindset. What's really bad is the managers unable to change the way that they manage to accept the way the Gen Z people view values. Right? I think the cool part out of our training on Gen Z employees was the answer at the end. Right? He went around the room and he asked everybody, "What are you going to do to change in your company today? What are you going to do to attract Gen Z employees?"
I can't remember the answer.
A lot of people had no answer. A lot of people no answer. It took me a while to think about it, because I felt like he wanted a hard answer. Like, I'm going to change the payroll system. Right? No, that wasn't. Why would changing the way that we pay attract them? Right?
Right.
So, I think my answer, but I think my answer was the best.
Of course.
Of course.
Classic Bill.
Yeah, of course.
Harry just woke up.
She just woke up.
She just woke up.
She had drool running down her
Yeah,
leg.
no, she's up.
Yeah.
Right? I think my answer was the best, but but I'm not saying it's a great answer. My answer was, I'm going to try. I'm going to try. Right? How do I try? I try by going to the high schools and talking to seniors and juniors. Just talk to them. Ask them. What is important to you in the work? What's important to you on a work schedule? Right? The traditional managers are going to go like, no, we work 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. You get 30 minutes for lunch. We're not paying you for it. You
Right.
have to be here to do this. You can only schedule your doctor's appointments after 3 p.m. You need to be here. Right? That's the traditional approach, and that's not going to work for the Gen Z generation. It's not. So my answer is, and I think it's hidden somewhere here inside of servant leadership,
Right.
is having the understanding to be flexible. I think that's the answer. Right? Being able to go, why can't we change the work schedule? Why can't we work 12 to 7? Right? Why can't I hire you part-time? Well, we've always hired full-time. Why can't I hire 2 part-time? Right?
Right.
I think it's just a matter of paying attention to what we're changing. Now, there's going to be things that you're not going to be able to change for whatever reason, whether it's tax law or it's some sort of OSHA guideline or something of that nature, right? There's going to be stuff that's just not going to be able to be changed. For the most part, I feel like if we have an open opportunity or an open mindset to this, we make it happen.
Exactly. It could work out.
Right? Because it goes back to the beginning, right? Listening to the employee.
Mm-hmm.
Prioritize them. Foster a collaborative, inclusive work environment. Hey, we need to move the pen. Everybody tell me how we're going to move the pen.
Right.
What obstacles are we going to get into? How are we going to overcome those? What could happen? Let's talk about risks. Right? Safety stuff. Let's talk. How are we going to do that? And then leading by example and saying, we're going to foster the opportunity that you can give me feedback. That if we can change something to better create an environment that everybody enjoys coming to work, everybody wins.
Exactly.
Right? I still get what I want. At the end
Yeah.
of the day, I want to work hard and be nice.
Yeah. Because, I mean, that's like whenever I took over the operations part. I mean, I took a couple of the managers and I was like, look, I don't know it all.
No, I don't. I don't plan to know
But
it all.
I had it, well, me and you sat down and we had it out on an organizational chart. I'm like, this is in my head. This is what I want. This is where we're driving to. But I need a little bit of help from you managers to get us from a 12-inch gap down to a 2-inch gap, down to an inch gap where everybody's following along right. And I tell you, the first couple weeks has been hectic, but you learn from those. I've learned from those so much, and I know the other managers have too. So now we went from a 12-inch gap down to maybe a 6-inch right now. We're still working on it, but once you get that workflow down, it's going to be great.
For the most part, us as managers have to be the most flexible.
Oh yeah,
we have to be the most. The employees don't.
Right.
They don't have to flex that much. We do. We have to be pliable to go, okay, I didn't see that coming.
Exactly.
Or, yeah, you're right. Right? Because a lot of times we have so much on our plate that we're trying to implement a policy that we've thought about for 25 minutes. But they live the policy every day.
Right.
Yeah. They already have a problem with the current policy that they haven't told us about.
Right.
But we need to foster an environment so that they tell us about it.
Yeah, but it comes down to your pin theory. It can be like this and it goes like this, but we need to get it back like that. And they are the ones out there every day.
They're the ones that are going to be, literally, they're the one that is directing the pen.
Yeah. And so you need their input to come back to us in order to see that.
Yeah. So I'd say do not be afraid of Gen Z, of the Gen Z generation, the Gen Z employees that are coming into the workforce. Don't be afraid of them. Talk to them. That's what I'm going to go with. Try.
Get ideas off of them.
Yeah. Try.
Yeah.
Try. That's all I can go with. What else you want to talk about, Chip?
I don't know. I think I'm pretty much done. Set still. My hands haven't moved. Been pretty good.
I feel like Carrie proved her point. There was no way we were going to be able to do that.
No.
Well, Carrie's right it one more time. Well, that's it for the Standing Waters podcast for this week. Chip, all we're going to do is try, buddy.
Oh, that's all we got to do.
All we're going to do is try.
Yeah.
And then we're going to close our office door and cry. But we're going to try, right? We're going to develop our employees to the level that they want to be developed at.
Sure.
And we're going to try.
Yeah.
It just makes us different than everybody else.
Exactly. And I'd rather try than fail.
And I feel like this theory will drive the line out front.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a customer line. It's an employee line of I want to work for them.
Right. And especially if you got the employees that go to their friends and say, hey,
yeah,
they're hiring, you need to come look at this.
It's going to drive the employees standing in line.
Exactly. Yeah. In the organizational chart, there's gray areas on it. And I just had one of the guys tell me the other day, I'm shooting for the gray area.
Okay.
And I'm fine with that.
Gray
I said, I'll help you any way I can get you there.
Gray area is opportunity.
And that's what you want.
Yeah. Well, we're done, Chip.
We're good.
Once again, thanks for chatting.
Oh, you're welcome.
Standing Waters Podcast. We'll see you next week, everybody. Thank you.